So next up, we're going to cover some pseudo classes, which they're kind of modifiers. They're keywords that we add on to the end of a selector that specify a particular state of those selected elements. So this is how we can target things like checkboxes that have been checked, or elements that are being hovered over, or things like every other button. So we're still selecting buttons, but we only want every other, or every fifth, or every 10th. They are modifiers, they're keywords we add on. And notice that they all start with a colon here. That is important. We do need to add that colon to signify we're using a pseudo class. And why don't we start with one of the most commonly used ones, which is hover. So hover is going to modify our selection. Here we're selecting all anchor tags. And then this is saying all anchor tags when they are in the special state of being hovered over. So this is how we can make an effect like that right there. It's super common when you hover over something to have some sort of different behavior, or just a different, behavior is the wrong term, but a different visual representation to show you that you can interact with it. It's all over the place with anchor tags, that button right there, sign in button, is there anything else? All of that, that's all done with hover. So why don't we work on maybe our buttons, the anchor tags. We could do the anchor tags first. No, let's do the buttons first. So when we hover over one of these vote buttons, let's have it change colors, and maybe we'll have it get dark red. So that will be button hover, and we'll go with background color is this reddish color, and then let's give it the text color of this light white right there. Just using VS Code's autocomplete, it's giving me the colors that I've used in this document already. It's really nice. Nice little preview. Okay. So I'll go back. I'll refresh. We don't see anything. Now I hover. Hey, it's working. So only when we're hovering. That will apply to all buttons. But you might be noticing with this button here, it's not working. Now we're going to talk about why in a couple videos soon in this section. It has to do with something called specificity in CSS. It technically is being applied to this element, but it's losing the battle to the ID selector, which is making this dark blue. Anyway, we'll come back to that. So I can hover and they change. I can also get more specific, and instead of saying all buttons, I could say a button inside of a post. So I would just write the selector to do that. A button inside of post, and then when you hover over that button, just like that. So I'll just revise it here, dot post, button hover. When you hover over a button inside of a post, which is something with the class of post, it still works, but these other ones are unaffected. So hover, very common. We could do the same thing for anchor tags. I could make all anchor tags behave differently, give them a different color, or change their text decoration. I don't know how that would look, but we could try it. Anchor tag, hover, text decoration. How about overline? Refresh. And there, that's horrible. I'm not going to keep that, but it is working. We've got a hover effect. Or we could instead, we could remove the text decoration from all anchor tags. Or how about all anchor tags instead of a post? Text decoration none. So they don't have that underline. And then when you hover, we'll add the underline in. But we should make those anchor tags a little bit, I think maybe just bolding them. So font weight, 700 to make them bolder. So you know there's something there. And then when you hover, we'll set text decoration to underline. And now hover, and we get that underline effect. Okay. So I think that's slightly nicer, but totally up to you. And we're only doing this currently to, well, this is actually all anchor tags we're doing that to. We should say anchor tags inside of a post. We shouldn't notice much of a difference. All right, so we have other pseudo classes, including things like active. Active represents something that is currently being activated. I don't know if they have any good examples here. Here's one. So when I hover, we get one state, and then I'm going to click but not release. You can see it turned red. Or on a button, that's pretty common, where you're clicking on the button, it's active. You can give it a different color or different states. So it's red, and then when I click, why don't I make it, I don't know, what's a different color? How about something totally different? We'll make it this bright green color. Sure, that one right there. So I'll just do button, active, and then background color. will be that color right there. And I'm going to specify inside of the post class, just like we did there, right there. Okay, so I'm going to hover, it's red, I'm going to click, it's active, and it turns green. Now I release, we go back to hovering, and now I leave, we're no longer hovering. So I can combine them as you've seen here. This is a class selector with an element selector with the descendant combinator and the active pseudo class. So we have some others. We've got checked. I won't necessarily show this in an example, but this is how you can select any radio buttons or checkboxes that are checked. So not unchecked, right? You can see there the styles here are saying any input with type of checkbox where it's actually checked, or any input with type of radio where it's checked. You can see it's checked. We get that text. This is checked. It changes color. As soon as I uncheck or switch, in the case of a radio button, it changes color, and those styles are applying. So that's checked. And then one more I'll show you right now is nth of type. Nth of type helps us select based upon position in a group of siblings. So if I had a bunch of, we've got 4 links here, but if I had a bunch of them, or maybe if I had a whole lot of these posts here, so maybe I'll just duplicate my posts. I'm just going to duplicate all of this. So I'll get like 6 sections, or maybe even 9, just paste it in there. If I wanted to do something to every other one, or every 5th, or something like that, I can use nth of type. So I'll just start by selecting those. They're the class of post, and I can give them a background color. Let's do a slightly different background color. So this is, what color are you? This color. Let's put this in a color picker. I'm just going to paste it into Google with that hash symbol there. Is it really a greenish color? Wow, I guess, yeah, it is. And then I'm just going to darken it ever so slightly. I'm just going to drag it down. That's one option. Once we talk about things like RGBA colors and HSL colors, that's another option. But I'm just going to copy this new color right there. It's just slightly darker. So every other post, I want to have this darker color. Right now, that's not going to be the case. Every post gets darker, as you can see right there. It's not particularly nice looking. Okay, so in order to do things like every other, I'm going to use nth. So it's a pseudo selector, nth, or pseudo class rather, of type. And then this one's a bit different. I need to specify that n. So if I do something like nth of type 3 and refresh, I'm now selecting the third of these post classes. So it's not every third in a row, right? So it's not counting by 3s. It's just the third one. But if I use this syntax, 3n, this will get me every third. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So if I want every even number, every other, I could do 2n. And there we go. I don't know if I really like how that looks, to be honest, but I'll leave it there. That's nth of type. And I think that's good enough for pseudo classes at the moment. There is a more comprehensive list on MDN, so we have quite a few of them. You can do things as granular as changing an element styles when the placeholder text is shown, right? So we've got placeholder text there, and I could style it one way, and now when I click and type, it goes away. We could have different styles. There are things like first of type and last of type. I think that's enough for now. That is pseudo classes. Next up, something kind of similar sounding, pseudo elements.